Om Gam Ganapataye Namah. Om Gam Ganapataye Namah. Gam Ganapataye Namah. Om Gam Ganapataye Namah. May this class, may this recording be super smooth and blessed by Ganesh. Welcome. I'm Amanda Noga, as you probably know. Thank you for being here. We're going to zoom through, pardon the pun, zoom through our class on the Ayurvedic clock because I think this is, well, it's one of my favorite topics when it comes to the Ayurvedic principles. And I also think it's one of the most helpful because it's a total rewiring, total 180 on the way that we relate to time generally in our culture. Time in Ayurveda is understood to be cyclical. You imagine, the visual of a normal like Google Calendar, the grid, straight lines. This is basically the opposite of the way that we're going to be thinking about time today. We're going to be thinking about it in a circular and cyclical way rather than straight lines and grids. The way that we are moving into this relationship with time is one that is very intentional and deliberate. I think time is, if not the most important, one of the most important resources that we have in our lifetime. And so we want to be super wise and directional with the way that we're using our time. And I just want to flag at the very beginning here that it's not to say that being productive and being out in the world and doing stuff all the time is the way to go. No, there's a real inherent understanding in Ayurveda that being in the feminine mode, being receptive, resting is just as valuable as the doing. The being is just as important as the doing. So, my loves, may this information help you to create a life that is the most sustainable for your energy, for the things that you want to create, for your relationships. And I really hope this helps. I know it will because it's helped me so very much. Let me pull up the slide here. Before we dive into the content, I guess I should share with you a little bit about why this topic has sparked my interest so much. Because I feel it's the real remedy. As I say here on the slide, it is the remedy for burnout and decision fatigue. When I was living a very different lifestyle, unsustainably, for me, it was running around, teaching too many yoga classes, saying yes to too many opportunities and invitations. And I know this is something everyone can relate to, yoga or not, saying yes to too much, looking at the schedule and really feeling just overwhelmed, being so grateful when plans were cancelled because it created just, a little slither of white space in which I could take a breath. And it's no surprise to anybody that 1 + 1 equals burnout. Living in this way, running around, totally scattered, burning the candle at both ends, eventually leads to burning the candle out. So another big thing that I know the Ayurvedic clock helps with is decision fatigue. And again, for me, as a new yoga teacher, working for myself in a sense, I had quite a bit of freedom. And yes, that is a massive gift and the beauty of working for yourself. But what it can also create with that level of freedom and, like, in a way, infinite choices to make, it can make us feel overwhelmed. Decision fatigue, way too many choices to make, indecisive, and it can lead to feeling, a little bit lost, a little bit directionless, and in that way, not really making the most of this free time that we have, the freedom that we have to design our own schedule. We're not really able to maximize that opportunity because it's like, I don't know what to do, because we've also been conditioned, we grew up in a culture where we were always told what to do with our time. Okay, you need to go to bed at this time. Now we go to school. Now school's finished. Now you can play. Now you can work. Now you can eat. Now you can sleep. It's like we're always, being molded into a schedule that's being placed upon us, which is very different to what we're doing here. It's kind of bringing the schedule from within and within in a way, because these timings that we're going to talk about are very much felt and innate to all of us. You're going to be able to recognize them in your own life, in your own energy. So it's not going to be a surprise. And in that way, it's very empowering. It's very liberating to be taking your cues from inside, and those inner cues also being related to the natural cycles and rhythms that are kind of supporting us from all around. So the path ahead. In this workshop, we are going to touch on the doshas. I don't want to spend too much time there today because the Ayurvedic clock is really what I want to focus on. So we'll touch base with the doshas, just kind of rejig that information in our minds, get it fresh, and then we'll get into how this relates to time and the Ayurvedic clock specifically, and how we can set up our life, our day in a way that is the most sustainable. I want you to have your notepad out. So if you haven't already grabbed your notepad, go and get it now. Grab yourself a tea, some water, so that you can just be here for the next, say, 45 minutes, 40 minutes, and jot down any questions that you have throughout the class, and you can fire them off to me afterwards. And the last thing I want to say here is this is the tiny seed, the gateway to the bigger world of Ayurveda. And I hope that it sparks in you the curiosity about Ayurveda, because I personally have fallen deeply in love with this art, this science, and I know that it has so many treasures to offer us and to help us, really, really, in practical ways, help us. So this is the gateway. May the doors be open to the realm of Ayurveda. Why this works. Okay, let me take a breath. Let me take a sip. Okay. So Ayurveda, before we get into the specifics about doshas and the clock, Ayurveda is a tried and tested system. It works because not only has it been around for like 5,000, 10,000 years and continuously been refined and updated and evolved over that 5,000 years, it's actually based on nature. And so the teachings of nature go way beyond the measure of time, and they are common sense. They are available to us all. And in that way, Ayurveda is very empowering to know that we can take our health, to take our life into our own hands, and do so wisely, supported by the wisdom of nature, As I say here in the slide, Ayurveda, she teaches us how to remember, how to speak, how to hear our first language, our mother tongue, the language of Mother Nature. And if you're newer to Ayurveda, I just want to say here that the word breaks down to mean the knowledge of vitality. The knowledge of vitality, knowing how to feel fully alive, fully lit up, fully vital, and to have longevity in our life. That word Ayurveda, so the Veda part is the knowledge or the study of, and then the Ayu is the vitality. Longevity and sustainability go hand in hand. We can't have a long life and be healthy all the way through it if we're not living in ways that are sustainable day to day. So let's dive in. So we have 5 elements, 3 doshas. Let's just touch base. Again, I'm super aware of the time. because there's a lot to cover. And I feel like you are probably already a little bit familiar with the doshas. You might have an understanding of what your personal dosha is and how they are manifesting in your own body and mind. But what I want to really focus on today is how these doshas go beyond our body and mind. So, in a way, that's related to understanding the elements that are underneath the doshas or on top of the doshas. If we think about, we have our three doshas, vata, pitta, and kapha. Each one of those connects to two elements. So, vata, starting with vata, as you probably know, is the dosha connected to air and ether. Air and ether and vata as a whole, are up here. They're all around. They are freely moving in any given direction. Will change their mind on a whim. The wind can be going this direction and then all of a sudden be going this direction. That's the same kind of feeling with vata. I won't go into how it manifests in the body right now, but we can definitely, spend days, years, lifetimes going into that rabbit hole. Dosha actually means, I'll just kind of insert this here, dosha actually means, in a sense, like when we start to get into the root translation of it, it means disease. So the imbalances in the doshas is where we start to see disease, dis-ease, the moving away from our natural state, which is one of ease and harmony and grace and bliss. That is how we're supposed to feel. We're supposed to feel easy, easeful in our bodies and in our minds. It's almost like hard to believe because we're often so far from that feeling of ease, but that is our natural state. So dis-ease, and then jumping back again, dosha, this is how we understand how to actually reverse the manifestation of disease and nip it in the bud, nip it in the tiny little baby imbalance that it might be before it manifests into something bigger and more serious. So vata is, yes, up in the air, moving all over the place, scattered. Again, I'm not going to go into the body and the mind manifestations right here because I know if I open that can of worms, we'll be here for way too long. So moving on, pitta. Pitta is connected to the fire element and water. It has this transformative quality. It has a directional, focused, mission-orientated quality to it. Fire has the power to turn matter into a more digestible form. So quite literally, food, if we put food to the fire, it can be transformed into something that's more easily digested and easily absorbed by our body, right? Same with ideas, same with stories and emotions. So if we bring our ideas to the fire, if we focus on them and bring them to light, we can turn our ideas into action, into manifest form. If we bring our stories to the fire, especially as women, we have been gathering in circle around the fire for millennia, and this is how we learn. This is how the female brain specifically is wired to learn, through narrative, through story, bringing the stories that we might feel most vulnerable about, bringing them out of the shadow into the light, to the fire. And that's where the gifts and the lessons of the fire, of the story, should I say, or the emotion can be transformed, can be transmuted into something that's healing. So moving on to kapha, I have to really restrain myself, not going so deep into the doshas. Moving on to kapha, she is related to water and earth. I always think about a basin or like a lake when I think about kapha. So it is the earth holding water, holding space for the water element. It's like this solid, grounded feeling of the earth, holding space for the emotion, which is more of that watery, fluid, energetic element. And so that's also what comes through kapha, that capacity really to hold space, to unite, to bring people together, to be compassionate, to be loving, nurturing. That's all coming through kapha. So tossing around whether I should bring down this slide or not. Okay, so here we have kind of an overview. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see clearly on this little diagram, but I've got a bigger one coming in a moment, so hang tight. But basically we have the Ayurvedic clock, and you can see on the 3 little squares moving across the page. So starting with kapha, here we have our lake. Kapha time is from 6 till 10. And that goes for AM and PM. And I'll just say here, of course, there are geographical and seasonal variations that come with this. But for the sake of our conversation today, we're going to stick with 6 or like sunrise. Those two interchangeably, or sunset, right? So from 6 till 10, we're moving through kapha time. Then from 10 till 2, we're moving through pitta, the fire. And then from 2 till 6, we're moving through vata. So that's the general overview. Okay, so here we are. Let's just remind ourselves again of these qualities of each dosha and how they relate to the clock. So again, here you can see, let's start with kapha. So we have actually, so you'll have this and you can pause and study this, right? This image if you want to read more, but I actually want to take you to this. Okay, so let's talk about the day starting from sunrise. Yes, let's start from sunrise. The start of the day, new dawn. I'm going to take a breath and sip while you have a look at that. Okay, my loves. Like I said, you can pause and study that image. I'm going to bring it down for now. Okay. So let me just do a time check. Okay, we're going good. Lots to cover. So let's start with sunrise. Sunrise is a, well, let's, I was going to say the time just before sunrise, which is vata time. So it said the 2 hours to like at a minimum 30 minutes before sunrise is the best time to wake up, because vata is all about movement and change. And at this time of day, it's much easier for our psyche and our body. So there are studies that show the different processes that are happening on a hormonal level, things going on in our digestion, things going on in our lymph fluid, in our brains at this very special time before the sunrise. And it's easier to make a move at that time of day. I know we've all probably had that feeling, when we have to wake up for a flight or with a crying baby or for any other reason. It's easier to get up at let's say 6 than it is at 8, or it's sometimes easier to get up at 5 than it is at 7. So I know you would have had that feeling. And in Ayurveda, the recommendation is to get up at least 30 minutes before the sunrise. And there are some beautiful rituals. I think you may have already received the triple goddess meditation that I love to practice in that Brahma Muhurta pre-sunrise time. Very powerful. But that's just like a little in brackets, before we get up. We're not going to go deep into that conversation right now, but just know there are many benefits for getting up before the sunrise. I know it's hard sometimes, especially if you've had broken sleep or you haven't had a optimal sleep. which is something I'm also really passionate about. Sleep, rest as a radical act of actually like feminism, to rest and to receive deep sleep. This is how we're going to change the world. So I know it's hard sometimes if you haven't received that optimal sleep, but it's worth it. Because, okay, here's where we get to the conversation around kapha and sunrise. So kapha is, again, let's remember that energy of heaviness, density, slow moving. And you can imagine that if we're ticking over into those hours, like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, if we're waking up in that window and starting to get going in that window, it's a lot of heavy lifting. I always say kapha is like a diesel engine. It's like hard to get going, but once you do, it's like got stamina, going and going and going and going and going. So ideally, we want to ride that wave of vata pre-sunrise and then be already up and awake and getting into our routine as we go into kapha time. Because as kapha is that really slow, dense, solid energy, it's also the perfect type of energy to support us in being consistent with our routine, getting the things done that are a priority to us. So in the Ayurvedic world, that first, window of time when we get up, we want to actually choose to create ourselves in that moment. Every day we have this new opportunity to set our intention, to get our mind clear, focused, crystal clear. And so you might be doing that with a long or a short ritual. You might be just lighting a candle, doing something really quick and really small, but just a reminder to, this is who I truly am. This is who I want to be today, and move forward into the day with that in mind, that top of mind, as the priority. You might have the time and space to do a longer kind of practice in the morning. Before we get into any kind of meditation or yoga practice, or even, working out, going to the gym, anything like that, we want to focus on helping the body purify. So I'm not sure if you can see or hear my neighbor, but so throughout the night, the body has been working really, really hard to detox, to clear out our system of all the things that are not needed physically. So through the food that we might not have absorbed or digested properly, or maybe is like not the healthiest, if we've eaten some seed oils, or if we've had some processed food, whatever, the body's working to get that out, right? Mentally, emotionally, the body is processing overnight all of these impressions, all of the ideas and triggers and feelings that we might have been experiencing throughout the day. Overnight, especially through our dreams, our subconscious is working to clear all that and create a clean slate to go into the next day. So in that first few moments of getting up, we want to just help the body clear out any excess gunk, what we call in Ayurveda the ama, AMA. It's the undigested toxins and gunk, basically, that have accumulated in the body. We want to help our body get rid of this stuff so that it doesn't accumulate, because the accumulation of ama is what then manifests as different diseases, depending on what kind of toxins we're exposed to, right? So mentally, we're doing the detox, the purification through, like I said, maybe something as simple as lighting a candle. Physically, we're doing the little mini detox, what I kind of call like a daily detox, a daily purification, by a couple of simple things like scraping your tongue, obviously brushing your teeth. Everybody does that. Maybe you do oil pulling a few times a week, depending on your dosha. So if you have high kapha, you might want to be doing something to clean the eyes of any mucus or clean the sinuses, a neti pot, for example. So just like a couple of little simple things to help the body, especially the tongue scraping. Like if you're not already doing this, please start because it's one thing. Once you start, you're never ever gonna look back. There's no turning back from tongue scraping, because when you scrape that gunk off your tongue, that's the AMA, AMA. That is, it's just gross. You want to get it out of your system before you drink anything, before you even brush your teeth. You want to just get that out, because within about 5 minutes of being awake, your body starts to reabsorb it. As you know, your saliva and your senses start to wake up. The first thing, even if you're going to jump back in bed, when you first wake up in the morning, ideally before sunrise, you're going to scrape your tongue, get rid of that stuff. So simple things like that. Drinking warm water. This is another really, really important daily detox. Warm water in the morning. It's helping your body like clean from the inside. If you imagine washing a pan with like grease and gunk on it, you want to wash it with warm water, right? You don't want to be washing with cold water. Cold water is going to just make it all stick there and make it impossible to clean. So if you imagine the inside of your digestive tract is the same, we want to help the body. Drink warm water, just gently wash all that gunk out. Go to the toilet and then start to move into whatever ritual, practice, workout that you like. Having this solid routine first thing in the morning is the prime time of day to prioritize, right? Because we have this kapha energy in the air. Okay. Enough said about kapha in the morning. I'm just scanning my mind. Is there anything else I want to say? Just know that kapha loves routine, really thrives off routine. So being consistent in this way, having those commitments to your own health, physical and mental, is really supported at that morning time. Okay. From about 10 a.m., we move into the pitta time. The sun is moving high from the sky, and this is kind of the peak of sunlight, right? 10 till 2. The fire that sustains all of life on our planet, the sun, is at its peak, is the biggest and brightest it's going to be throughout the day. So this is also where our digestive fire starts to ramp up and get into its peak. This is where in the middle of the day, we should be eating our biggest meal. We have our highest digestive power at that time. So that's something definitely to keep in mind. If you want to be eating proteins, grains, definitely have that in the middle of the day. Anything that's going to be a little bit more of a load on your digestive system, trust me, you're not going to get sleepy. Have it in the middle of the day, and it's going to actually give you fuel. It's going to be able to be turned into fuel, because remember that pitta is fire. So anything we put on the fire turns into fuel. You're going to be able to turn it into fuel for the rest of your afternoon and not have to snack or be, reaching for chocolate or coffee or a matcha or whatever. You're going to be sustained in your energy levels all afternoon. Promise. The other thing to keep in mind through this 10 till 2 window is that your focus, your productivity is also at its peak. So this is the time where you want to factor in getting shit done. That's the energy of pitta. You want to be focused, be on fire, be productive, be moving forward. That's the feeling. So anything that you need to make sure you get done happens in that 10 to 2 window, right? Moving through into Vata time in the afternoon. So we're starting, again, let's just use the loose understanding of 2 p.m. as with that transition time, but these times are all based on the seasons and where you are geographically. But from 2 through till sunset, let's say 6 p.m., that's when we have Vata time. So Vata is, again, that energy of spontaneity, creativity, communication, articulation, the airy ether, moving in many directions. That's what's happening in the afternoon. And you might have felt that. You might have felt that rise of Vata in the afternoon and the tendency to feel more anxious, more scattered, fragmented, lose your keys, get lost. Like, that is more prone to happen in the afternoon. Our tendency to get overwhelmed and feel like we're being pulled in many different directions, that can flare up in the afternoon. So there's kind of two strategies that you can use when navigating this afternoon time. You want to use that beautiful, creative, spontaneous quality of Vata and, ride that wave, ride that movement and change. It has a real gift to it, right? The lightness, the play, the enthusiasm. Do something fun, do something spontaneous. However, with the caveat, if you know you're prone to feeling anxious, overwhelmed, scattered, or, in short, Ayurvedic shorthand, if you know that you have high Vata, if that's your constitution, then you want to do a couple of things in this afternoon time to remedy that, to balance that. And you're going to focus on grounding. You're actually going to focus on doing one thing, not moving in many directions, just choosing one simple thing to focus on. It might be something creative, you might let's just say this is I guess an idealized version, but you might sit down and practice your harmonium or do a painting or something like that. Something where you can focus your creative energy, kind of channel that through, but also feel still, feel grounded and calm. That's going to help, that tendency to get overwhelmed. Oh, I also just want to say, let's jump back to Pitta time for a sec. 10 till 2. If you know you have the tendency, if you're Pitta dosha, actually, I probably should have said this for each time, so I will for Kapha in a sec. But if you are prone to high Pitta, if that's your dosha, if that's your constitution, if you know that you tend to get really fiery or hyper focused or hyper critical, that feeling of I have so much to do, I can't get it all done, I'm going to be working until midnight. If that's your zone, if that's your feeling, then I want you to bookend this Pitta time, 10 till 2, with 2 little windows to keep the fire at bay. 5 minutes at 10 a.m., you can set your alarm. 5 minutes just to chill. Literally, you're imagining just toning down your inner fire. Toning it down. Chilling out. Putting a little bit of ice on the fire. 5 minutes of breathing, being still. Even if you think I have way, 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 way too much to do, or that I want to get done, there might be that real fire, passion, and purpose coming through. We don't want to put that out, but we want to keep it sustained, right? Bookend the end of that Pitta time, so 2 p.m. with another 5-minute window. 5 minutes, set your alarm, just to breathe, just to chill, not listening to anything, not doing anything, not going anywhere, just to sit still. Maybe you drink some cool water and know okay, everything that needs to get done will get done. And everything else, Kapha, if you know that your Kapha dosha is dominant, so if you struggle getting up in the morning, if you feel that ultimate heaviness and and you wake up feeling tired, which really sucks, that's the worst feeling when you have slept, but you feel like you could literally sleep forever, then you definitely want to get up before the sunrise, okay? Definitely. And get moving as quickly as possible. Make sure you get, after you've done those little daily detox practices, then you want to make sure you get some vigorous movement. If you don't have time for a full workout or a full yoga practice, you're going to do 20 star jumps, jumping in your bathroom, whatever. Get your blood moving, get your energy moving, shake off any stagnation. Okay. We're moving all the way around to sunset. Okay. I might pull up the little chart again so you can see for yourself what I'm talking about. And not have to look at my face the whole time. Okay, so here we are. We're moving to sunset. And at that sunset time, again, we've got the Vata carrying on from the afternoon, and that's helping that big transition happen as we move from day to night. Everything kind of gets stirred up at the Vata time, at the sunset time. All the birds in the trees go crazy, the children go crazy, and we too feel it on some level. So we want to kind of have that sunset time as a real significant marker in the day. Okay, the day is done. Again, pizza person, everything that needs to get done, got done. It's all good. Time to start winding down. Vata, if you feel like, I'm so inspired, I'm so creative, I just want to keep going. Whew. Cool it down, come back to earth, move the focus from the creative realm, being up in the air, into your bones, into your body, into the earth. So as we make this transition, we have done a very good job as humans to technologically go against the rhythms of nature, particularly with the invention of light. So usually at sunset, we tend to turn on all the lights in the house and, in a sense, recreate the daylight. Oh, hello. Recreate daylight as we move into night. And of course, that's going against the grain of what's happening in nature. And our priority and our focus is really to recreate what's happening in nature inside our home as much as possible. And that's when we're going to start to feel more harmony, more ease, as we start to tend to our outer environment in our home. Our inner environment is also being a reflection of the same thing. So when it comes to this kapha time, as we move from sunset through to 10 p.m., this is the time where we want to harness the heavy, slow, grounded power of kapha. It's very easy to want to keep doing stuff and to keep the momentum of the day. That tends to be our default as humans. We want to keep going, keep running. But as we move into this evening time, we want to do everything we can to prepare for ultimate optimal rest. And this is what's really going to set us up for a deep, nourishing sleep. So it's really important, especially if you struggle with sleep. This is really, really important. These hours from 6 or sunset through till 10. You want to have your last meal of the day at least 3 hours before you go to sleep. My recommendation is to get to sleep, like head on the pillow, lights out, you're asleep, 9 to 10 p.m. Things that you want to be doing to create that natural environment in your home environment is, number one, keep the lights down low. Okay. Once the sun has set, we shouldn't have any lights on over our heads. What that does when we have these lights on above our head is sends a signal to the brain like, oh, okay, it's daylight. I need to keep producing these stress hormones, this cortisol, to keep getting shit done. But no, this is the opposite of what's happening outside. And so we want to keep the lights down low, literally like low lighting, dim lighting. So you're going more into like the red amber lights, and also low to the ground. You want to have lamps, you want to have floor lights, that sort of thing. In a sense, like recreating firelight. That is what our body is wired to process properly: sunlight, moonlight, and firelight. So bear that in mind. Light is a big thing. You also want to harness this kapha energy in the evening to connect to yourself. Remember, kapha is all about union, bringing things together. So it's prime time to connect to yourself and connect to your loved ones, connect to the people that you live with. Connection through, maybe you're writing in your journal, maybe again, you're doing like a chilled practice, meditation, yoga nidra. Maybe you're spending time with your kids or your partner or whoever you live with. Maybe you are watching something. If you're watching or listening to some sort of like entertainment, I want you to really make sure that if you're looking at a screen, you have for sure the night shield or whatever they call it I use a program on my computer called, what's it called? Flux, f.lux. That's also really good. Iris is another really good one if you want to get more into the specifics. But yeah, if you want to nerd out on that, definitely get Iris. It's really also a good program to install on your computer. But that's so important. If you don't have those things on your computer or your phone, then make sure you've got your blue blocking glasses on. This is like something I'm really, really a stickler for, because it affects our brain, our hormones, our sleep hormones, our stress hormones, and our sex hormones like crazy. I won't go down that rabbit hole. I don't want to open that can of worms, but just trust me on this. So if you're watching something, aside from, you know, making sure that you're not bombarding your brain with blue light, I also want you to really consider the type of content. You don't want to be watching anything that's too stimulating. If it's scary, if it's making you feel anxious or on edge, or even like hyper emotional, you don't want to be having like uncomfortable necessarily conversations at this time of day. You want to keep your nervous system in a nice chill zone. So being aware of the content that you're watching or listening to in the evening is really, really important. Kapha is inherently more sensitive, more emotional. So you're likely to feel more heightened emotions, more triggered in that evening zone. So just be aware of it. Just be aware. Be mindful, intentional with the content that you're watching. Okay. So if you've done all of that good stuff in your Kapha hours, by the time your head hits the pillow at like 9 or 10, yes, I am watching the time. We're moving through, we're nearly at the end of the 24 hours. If you have done all that good work, calming down, winding down, then by the time your head hits the pillow at like 9 or 10 p.m., you are going to drop into a beautiful deep sleep nice and quickly, right? And that's the plan. That's the ideal. We don't want to be taking a long time to fall asleep. That's a sign that we haven't spent enough, what am I trying to say here? We haven't effectively calmed our system, our nervous system, our mind, our body down enough. We should hit the pillow and be asleep, snoring within 10-15 minutes. That's like the natural human design. So getting into bed, knowing that you've primed yourself, you're going to go into this beautiful deep sleep, and that first wave of sleep, which is the pitta time from 10 till 2, is so important for physical repair. So if you think you're a night owl, I just want to say everybody is a night owl if you stay up beyond 9, 10 p.m. Because what happens is you get this wave of pitta. Pitta is the dominant force at that time of night. And if we're not asleep, then again, if the mind thinks, okay, I need to keep secreting cortisol, we're awake, we're doing stuff, okay, I've got lots of energy now, I can like clean out the closet, I can do some more emails, I can get this thing done that I didn't get to at 1 o'clock this afternoon. That wave of pitta is going to start, you know, spiraling and start like amping up if we're not asleep. Ideally, what we want to do is be dedicating that pitta power, that transformative power, into healing and purifying our physical body. If it's getting, you know, put into emails at 10 p.m., then our body is being sacrificed. So that first wave of sleep, really, really important. Don't miss it. Don't miss it. 2 hours of sleep before midnight. No, they say an hour of sleep before midnight is worth 2. Okay, in terms of like how rested you're going to feel. So make sure you get into bed early. I know it sucks. Well, it doesn't actually. Sleep is the best. Moving through to, and I'll just flag here, all of this sleep stuff, I'm really getting into the details about it, is something I love, and definitely something that we cover deeply in the training. So if you struggle with sleep, bear that in mind. There's lots and lots and lots you can do to support yourself. Last little section as we move from 2 a.m. through till sunrise, these wee hours of the morning. This is Vata time. If you remember, Vata is air, it's ether, it's everything up here. So this is when we tend to have our big dreams. This is where our subconscious and our psychology starts to receive that benefit of the rest, starts to be restored. We work out, all the mental and emotional impressions that we were exposed to over the day. And of course, just like the physical repair that happens in the Pitta hours, this psychological repair that happens in the Vata time is also really, really important if we're going to wake up feeling well and feeling rested and that we're ready for another day. So if you are a person that winds up tossing and turning and finds it hard to get back to sleep in those wee hours, know that that's the Vata happening. And so you want to do things throughout the day to keep the Vata at bay, because if there's too much, it's going to flare up in those early hours of the morning. So ideally we're asleep through that time, we're having beautiful dreams, our subconscious is getting cleaned up, and then we can wake up just before the sunrise. Ooh, okay, I think that was 24 hours. Well, that was the 24 hours. Pop this down here. Okay, anything else to say, to share? Like I said in the beginning, if you have questions, pop them down on your little notebook and fire them off to me after the class. Okay, I think that is about it. Yeah, last little side. Okay, next steps, definitely get in touch with me. Well, I'll be getting in touch with you. I'll send you an email, but I'd love to know what your biggest takeaways were, what your questions are. Please fire them to me. You can send me an email, you can send me a DM on Instagram if that's where you usually hang out. And yeah, like I said, I'll be in touch. We have some really exciting offerings in the pipeline, so I'd love to have you. I'd love to have you in there. I'd love to stay close and stay connected. So my love, have a beautiful rest of your day, and I look forward to hearing from you. I hope this was super valuable. I hope you got lots and lots out of it, and you have some very practical ways of applying this info in your day, today, tomorrow, for the rest of the week. So let me know how you go. Ciao.